Hey y'all, welcome to the Filling Station. I am so excited, y'all. So, listen, let me go ahead and give my disclaimer right. I am not a financial advisor. I just enjoy teaching people how to build generational wealth. And yeah, the stock market is just one of those avenues. So, this video is for educational purposes only. With that being said, let's get started. So, we are looking at Tesla's chart, right? On the daily chart, Tesla is one of my absolute favorite stocks to trade. And today it reported earnings, and we'll get into that. But if you look at Tesla here on the daily chart, it shows from 119, the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 24th. Tesla basically went sideways, right? So we had a 5 and 50 crossing to the downside, which let us know that that stock was coming down, and it did, and it consolidated for a little while. And so now that Tesla has reported earnings, the stock has dropped a lot today, and we'll get to that. But I guess the question will be, okay, so what's next for Tesla? They've already reported earnings and they did a miss. So that could affect the stock. And that's one of the things as a trader, you've got to kind of be aware of the news and what's going on, especially if it's one of your favorite stocks and something that you like to trade. News will definitely affect the outcome of your stock. So be mindful of that. And so it's consolidating. It has been consolidating. So this is one of those places that I would draw, my line to give me an alert to let me know if it goes above this or below this. And I trade what I see, right? So I'm not in a hurry to get into my trade. I just wait until my alerts go off or until I get a signal to get into the trade, right? So as you can see, this is the 4-hour chart. Tesla had been moving sideways, for the past few days, basically, right? We had some highs, back down, had another high, and all the way back down. Well, it did the exact same thing today. This time, y'all, look how it reported earnings aftermarket. The high of this candle today was 211.10. The low of this 4-hour candle today was 195.39. So that means Tesla ranged. It ran from 211.10 all the way down to 195.39 after it reported its earnings. So that's something, that we have to always be mindful of. And if you are holding calls, thinking the stock was going to go up, because Tesla normally does pretty well on their earnings. I will say that. But the last couple of times, I think they've had some misses, and the stock has been kind of like fluctuating up and down and up and down. So if you got caught on the side, believing that the stock was going to go up, then you're probably going to be down a lot tomorrow when the market opens, because this stock declined a lot. It looks like it closed at 207.83, and we see this here. It closed at 207.83. Well, the low of the candle was 195.39, so that's a big difference in stock price. So I hope no one was actually stuck in the upside of the trade. I did swing a put, meaning I believe the stock was going to go down based on what I seen in the charts and what I had seen with the way that the stock had been moving. I do not like to swing trades because you never know what the market is going to do. I always say trade what you see. Well, if you can't see what the market is doing, it's kind of hard to know that, hey, it's going to go up or hey, it's going to go down. So I only did that based on what I was seeing in the charts and how the stock had been, moving throughout the week or the last few days or the last few weeks. It seems like it's been in a decline. So this is Tesla, and we could barely see it on the 5-minute. It's just basically moving sideways. It's really hard to see, what it's doing or what it yeah, it's hard to see what it's doing. So we're going to go to the 30-minute chart, seeing that, the stock opened up. It consolidated early morning pre-market. I always mark those areas. It consolidated pre-market, ran up to this 211, well, 212.73. That was the high today. It came back down, found support at this ATR trail and stopped. So we had some highs and lows. Looked like we had a double bottom here, which means it was going to go back up. So we had some highs and some lows, but it consolidated for a while right here. I got in around this time here, where to the downside. And my reason is, if you look at this 30-minute, you can see the 5 and the 50 crossing. And on the 5 minute, it was confirmation as well that the stock was making lower lows and it was headed to the downside. We're not able to trade options. We are not able to trade options after the market. So if we were in this, the put to the downside, we would have benefited a lot. That somebody made some really, really good money on this right here. But as you can see, the stock has really just been moving sideways mostly throughout the day. We had a little bit of up, and mostly it's just been to the downside. And that's what you have to be very, very careful. I always say the chart is telling you something. You just have to start paying attention to what the chart is saying. And many may say that I don't know how to read the charts. Well, you're able to look and see when something is going down, because you're able to recognize that the candles are moving down, or it's going up based on the candles going up. If it's going down, it's normally going to make lower lows. That means it's going to be lower than the previous low. And if it's making higher highs, that means it's higher than the previous high. But just see if you can look at different candles or different charts now, especially Tesla, and find places to where I pay attention to this, or I see this pattern, I see that it's moving, or I see that it's going sideways. Or when I say sideways, that's like this and not really going anywhere. Tesla is a really, really good chart that you can learn from, because when it moves, it moves. When it runs. Like if it's gonna have a strong move today, it's gonna be a strong up move. If it's gonna be a strong down move, it's gonna be a very strong, down move. Normally it exceeds its ATR, and the ATR is the average true range of the stock. Tesla normally exceeds that amount. So that's not abnormal for Tesla to do. But the most important, I always say the most important thing is to make sure that you know the direction of the stock. I wouldn't be trading Tesla to the upside knowing that it's under the moving 5 EMA. I have a 5 and 50 cross in here. It has, fell through the ATR trail and stop. I have too many signals to tell me, that's showing me on this chart, that this stock was going down. So I definitely wouldn't want to trade it to the upside, knowing that, my chart is telling me that it's coming to the downside. And one of the things that you'll learn as a trader is you do not want to trade against the trend. Now, I am a scalper. Sometimes I'll go in and I can see based on, I'll enter on a smaller time frame, and I don't recommend new traders to do that, but I will enter on a smaller time frame. I'll go in and I'll scalp that, and I'll get back out, and it may be against the trend at that time, but ultimately I trade with the flow of the market. That means if the market is going up, I want to trade it to the upside. If the market is going down, I want to trade it to the downside. You definitely don't want to trade this sideways action right here, especially if you are trading options, because the moment you buy into this, it's going to eat up your premium. It's going to eat up, the time is money when you're buying options. Always remember that time is money, and you want to be very, very careful with that. So again, we are looking at Tesla. This is the 30-minute chart, because the 5-minute chart is so different. Let me say that it consolidated here. We could have entered this trade right when the market opened, because it broke out of the consolidation area, and we could have scalped it all the way down. That's that would have been a good entry, because it broke out of, this would have been the support area. It broke out of support. Now you don't want to be greedy and just stay in. I would have watched the candle. Of course, we would have been on a smaller time frame, but I would have went in and entered this trade and scalped it to the downside, made me a nice profit. And some people can make that profit and be finished for the first look. Within the first 5 minutes of the market, you finish for the day, depending on what your goal is. And I always say, don't try to overstay your welcome. If you see your move, if you see your setup, go in, make your money, and get out, right? So again, Tesla gave us a double bottom here, which signals a reversal to the upside. We had a pivot right here, is what I like to say, with this 5 EMA here. So that tells me that it could very well go back to the upside, which it did, which is that V point. I call that my pivot point. It came up to the high of this gathering spot, which I always use that as support and resistance. and it got rejected and it came back down. When I say rejected, that means it can't go any higher. That something right here stopped it from going higher, right? And sellers, that's why you have this wick on the top right here. The sellers came in to take this price back down. You want to enter the trade right here when it got rejected. That's one. Sellers are in. That's two. So I'm going to try to ride this, this stock down at some point, right? So I will be watching it again. I would not have traded this area right here. My entry would have been here when that 5 and 50 crossed. I would have scalped it again right here to the downside, and the ATR trailing stop. You have to be able to look at, multiple time frames, like the one, if you're scalping the 2 minute, most people use the 2 minute, the 5 minute, and the 30 minute. I always ask myself, where are my trouble places? I need to figure out where am I going to have trouble. So I would have marked this area as a trouble place anyway, right? So if I would have entered the trade, I would have known that I'm going to have trouble at this place, so I need to be careful here. Well, I wouldn't have necessarily just exited the trade because it is under the 5 EMA. And it's still making lower lows. That means this is lower than this. No, this is lower than this. This is lower than this one. This one and this one are almost the same, but this one here is lower than these. So it's making lower lows. So you would be to the downside of this trade based on the 5 and the 50 crossing the lower lows. And when I'm on the 5 minute chart, I use the MACD and the RSI. Those things kind of help you with your trades and staying in your trades and making sure you're on the right side of the trade. But the most important part of this video is to make sure that you understand that news affects the stock. And you don't want to trade against the trend. Tesla has been giving us signals that it's getting weaker, that the price is not moving the way that it normally does. I've been trading Tesla for a while, so to me the stock is a little bit different than than normal. So I definitely wouldn't be trading it to the upside based on I know the trend right now is to the downside. Not saying that it's going to stay like that, because it's not going to stay like that. Let me say that. But look, trade what you see. Pay attention to your charts and pay attention to the news and when a company report the earnings, because earnings can be good, earnings can be bad. It's basically, what they're going to say on that call that's really going to make a difference. So I will be watching Tesla tomorrow just to see how it's going to respond, or how people or investors are going to respond to the news of Tesla missing earnings. This is the stock itself right after the earnings. As you can see, 4 o'clock, bell rings here. Right, this candle right here, 405, we must have gotten some news, because we have dropped tremendously from the 207 all the way down to the 195. It did try to recover just a little bit. However, it's still under the 5 EMA, which it tried to get above it here, but those are very weak to me, in my opinion. So it looks like Tesla very well may have an interesting day tomorrow, but don't count it out that, because they miss earnings, that the stock still can't run tomorrow. Tesla has a mind of its own, and it does what it does, right? I always say trade what you see. Learn to pay attention to your candles, and don't get so caught up in, they missed earnings and they're probably going to go down today. That's not always the case, right? So some companies miss earnings and do well the same day, or do miss earnings and still do better the next day. So it just depends. You just have to, don't get caught up in that portion of it, although that is important, right? So y'all, look, we're just looking at different places in the charts and seeing what we can learn and how we can just learn gradually versus trying to put the whole puzzle together at one time. Trading, I use this example all the time, that trading is like putting a puzzle together. You can only do one piece at a time, and once you get that piece, you apply it to your puzzle, and then it helps your puzzle to form, right? So that's what we're doing right now, just looking at Tesla, picking out things that we can learn from and grow from, right? So look, I always speak to my future millionaires. You got this. Look, one trade at a time. Let's get it, right? Have an awesome day today, y'all, on purpose.